Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much, Dr. Bhatia, for such a wonderful introduction. I have my GCC partner, Dr. Rajashree Vichare here. So, big round of applause for Dr. Rajashree Vichare as well. What we are going to do is we are going to do a couple of slides together to share in terms of our consulting expertise over GCC as well as global, and we'd like to present some of the slides together. So with which we'll be talking about Euphoria Consulting and what we do together here. Yeah, thank you so much. So Euphoria Consulting is a strategy consulting and organizational development firm, and we born at IIM Ahmedabad in 2004. Those of you who are not familiar with Indian Institute of Management called IIM Ahmedabad, it is supposed to be considered, I won't say it's an equal parallelity, but it's some kind of an Harvard for India in that kind of place, where we started together here. And then we started with Professor K.K. Mehta, who was the first generation faculty at IIM Ahmedabad and who got trained by Douglas McGregor from Sloan School of Management. And that's how we started this entire consulting journey in 2004. And our objective was to look at it that how do we create a global impact. And with which Dr. Mamta Kapoor, myself, and Professor Mehta started. Unfortunately, around 2 years back, we lost Professor Mehta at the age of 93. But it is his contribution of 60 years where he has done a lot of work here, even in early days of UAE, when UAE was, I think, in a kind of growing and early stage of it, and he has done amazing work here as well. And it is his kind of a footprint with which we started together. So this is some of our credentials to talk about that. We are 20 plus years, served around 160 plus client organizations. And in terms of our consulting has been in multiple ways where normal our average engagement with each of our clients has been more than 4 years on this. So I'll invite Dr. Rajashree to talk about in terms of what we exactly do at Euphoria Consulting.
Thank you so much, Ashish. So first of all, good morning everyone. I am thrilled to be here today. Before I move on to, walking you through the Euphoria lens on the transformation journey, just a bit of my background. I come from global HR leadership, strategy in terms of people and business transformation has been my expertise for almost over a decade plus now. Now coming to the continuation of what exactly we do in terms of transformation journey, as many of us are aware, irrespective of what domains we specialize in, we are here to sort of look at identifying and diagnosing what triggers a business when it comes to multi-fold of, in terms of strategy, in terms of scaling the business, where exactly the problem lies when it comes to handling loss of productivity. These are the diagnostic symptoms that triggers what has happened to a certain business. That's where transformation journey begins, and that's what we do. And this is where we play a very niche and critical role from an organization development, rather in short term an OD consulting firm. That's what we do. So moving forward with regards to a couple of triggers, as I already mentioned. There are many that also unfolds with regards to, hey, my business is at X position and we want to scale our business or expand across multiple geographies or regions and so on and so forth. That's where we come and play a role. Another area where we play a very critical role is in regards to M&A strategies, which is where merger and acquisition happens. Giving you a bit of background in regards to Middle East. My forte has been walking through greenfield projects, starting from Miras Holding Group, pre-opening project for Dubai Parks and Resorts, and moving forward with M&A projects like DigiPhoto Entertainment Imaging, which is acquired by Thomas Cook, then moving on to Landmark Group, and my last day was with Adobe. This is the entire journey, and that's where we sort of step on from Euphoria Consulting, and that's what we bring on the table. Now moving forward, with regards to what exactly is the solution that we look at when it comes to the OD intervention, right? We all are learning a language, speaking from one space, which we call as transformation, right? Many of us, we heard this, when AI is kicking on that wave. As rightly thought, there was once a time when we all ignored, when Google became the only solution where we were looking for what is a search engine optimization. Now is the time for AI. And that's where we come and play a very, very critical role, because we look at not just how do you start and transform, but we start from the diagnostic and we move towards a BAU by implementing and walking you through an end-to-end transformation journey. Now, when we say that, what is the solution we offer? We offer solutions from future-ready transformation frameworks, which are certified, having assessments which are, in a range where are tailor-made for your organization or your group of people where we step in. We also look at, data-driven challenges and change intelligence. When I say this, we are expert in people analytics and data storytelling. That's where we look at, everything that begins on OD intervention, all starts from the data intervention. Then we look at systematic and scalable impact. When I say this, we not only leave you at the end with the journey of saying, here you go, this is how you sort of operate, and that's the transformation we've done. But what we do is we leave and move on with a drastic impact, which is a radical change that we bring on the table for organizations. And this is what Euphoria is known best for when it comes from a credible market of almost 160 clients that we had presented. And now we are stepping in terms of our expansion in the GCC region. That's what we offer. Final from transformation approach, as I said, is looking at what is the diagnosis, what is the intervention design. When we say design, design is a concept which is not something that will fit as one size for every other organization, right? So we not only come in to say, hey, how do we operate when it is a startup? But we look at companies, what is your as is? And then we look at how could we enter and do the change and transformation for you. That's the expertise we bring on board, and we do the OD interventions for you. Looking at implementation, tracking, and eventually transitioning you to BAU with zero impact on your day-to-day operations. That's what Euphoria does. Over to a very critical case study, just to illustrate what would be the examples of what our work have been. For obvious reasons, the company credentials are confidential, but I'd like to invite our MD and co-founder Ashish to walk you through the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajashree, for sharing what Euphoria does and what is the method with which we engage the transformation journey. So, of course, it's always good to listen that any kind of a framework or any kind of, I would say, the conceptual base, right? But there is always a saying that success lies in terms of implementation. What you implement and what impact you bring on the table. That is where I guess everyone will look at you. So just not to talk about in terms of conceptual base about what we do, but here we are also sharing our two case studies, which, as Rajashree rightly mentioned, we have taken the client's NDA approval at the same time, but of course some of the confidentiality. So you may feel that some data are missing because we cannot exactly put it in that perspective. So there are two case studies we are representing here. One is from a logistics industry and other is from a fintech industry where we have a lot of specialization. So like Rajashree, if I talk about myself also, I come from both this industry. I started working in 1996 and I was started from California and US where I was part of the Intel and semiconductor industries, one of the offshoot, where I was working in San Jose as well as Milpitas, and then other French organization where I worked as a global capability head in Paris and in Singapore, which was for Sodexo, which is another French organizations. And from there, we got into consulting, and last almost 18 to 20 years, I've been doing into consulting side of it on this. So just to talk about the case study, I'll allow you to read, but what was the client's problem in terms of absolutely client had a challenge in terms of, it's a very renowned cold chain company, and biggest challenges, the five on the left side of us, we can see is some of the challenges client was facing. So absolutely outdated pricing model or competition is catching up and your margins are always in the challenge, right? Because any player has a 2 or 3 years or a 4 years horizon where your margins you can protect. But of course the competition comes and starts hitting you, and you need to do something where your margins either you protect or you can increase further. So that was another challenge, and also in terms of your sales channel was not digitized, and all your new players, even if you look at here, I think even the basic transportation industry has become more digitized, right? So what has been happening is you have to look at your digital sales channel. You need to look at it at how am I absolutely looking asset light model. And a lot of time you have a capex model which is high capital expenditures you do, but there is some player comes with a different private equity with an asset light and you are in a different kind of a challenging environment. So how do you look at it on this? And that's where we work very closely with them. And it was 3 years of our engagement. So my next slides will talk about in terms of how we go about it. So normally we say that we do 2 steps. The step 1 is a diagnostic and step 2 is an implementation as a phase A or phase 1, phase 2. Diagnostic to me in a simplest language if I put is my start line. What is my start line? And ultimately what is my end line as an achievement or a target I wish to achieve together. So we start with a start line in terms of for this client organization as a case study we looked at it. What is our market competitive analysis and where do we are? So whether in terms of the pricing, where do we fit in terms of positioning, where do we fit in terms of our turnaround of each customer, in terms of pocket size of each customer, where do we sit in and where exactly we looked at it, and then we put an end line in terms of what do we wish to achieve and how do we wish to achieve. That's where we created entire in terms of our 3 part of it very clearly, engagement model, brainstorming as a business enabler, and very clearly in terms of how do we look at it because the physical warehousing team, transportation team was not understanding digital approaches. So how do we orient them or reorient them in terms of digitization on that? That's what is done by in terms of leadership coaching as well as a culture integration because we have to do a lot of things in terms of lead by listening the campaign, robust review mechanism, and absolutely we kind of revamped the way organization was looking at it. So if I move to what change in terms of quantitative at the same time qualitative. Because in any such transformation there cannot be only qualitative, it has to have a lot of quantitative part of it. So in terms of they could onboard 70 new customers as an integrated supply chain partner. So far they were getting more and more only as a warehousing relationship. But here they could launch it. So if I give as simplest example, if you want to come with a Tim Horton launch in that country, would you just provide a warehousing or a supply chain or would you provide entire integrated in terms of entire solution? So that's the kind of a way we help them to look at it, 70 new customers coming on the board. At the same time in terms of how do the margin kind of uplift and the growth in the revenue over the 3 years horizon. So this is in terms of quantitative and at the same time qualitative, which very clearly is that they have become a absolutely looking at per employee contribution and per employee revenue has been much getting higher and higher, which was a major contribution and success to this part of it. Any question on the case study 1 before I come and take another 5 minutes for case study 2? Any questions? Do you think it makes sense? It doesn't make sense as a solution? And it has a lot of digitization in terms of the data kind of pickup. So give an example without naming a customer. One of the biggest customer for this client is the one from US who creates the French fries. I'm sure you might be knowing the name, who has the biggest French fries creation. And the way we could provide them entire, let's say, solutioning in terms of through our client, where they can look at it in terms of the temperature to everything and how it is going to each store. Also, I think that made a big difference in terms of becoming an integrated supply chain. And this was not a skill set available for the client organization of ours earlier. They were always on a kind of a passive mode, which we helped them to become more on the active side of it.
Ashish, I have a question.
Sure.
Question really is, I think it's a more technical question. When you say it's a 3 years journey, generally you reap the benefits after 3 to 4 years.
Sure.
Period, which is very normal in any transformation. However, when you pitched it to the customer for the first time, did you say that you would take a 3 years? Because if you go to a client and say, after 3 years, I'm going to get you benefits, how do you break it down into a 6-month, 12-month, 24-month, 36-month journey? Because any client would look for those short wins, those low-hanging fruits. How do you really see that in that big umbrella?
Sure, it's a very interesting question and I think very, very pertinent question, even we listen every day. So normally we put kind of 6 months to 15 months journey, and in 6 months we say this will happen, and if that happens we go for another 6 months, and that's how we keep on looking at a milestone part of it. To a great extent this assignment came to us from a board, and leadership board, and so practically they were very clear because as a Euphoria Consulting we are a subject expert on the. So they were knowing it that they are onboarding the right player. But of course we did not tell the team and we kept on showcasing the result and success in every 6 months horizon. And as I said, 3 months, 3 years, actually we could have achieved this in 2.5 years, but 6 months in between when we lost it also somewhere. So while I'm saying I'm happy with the achievement, I'm also at the same time saying that yeah, we could have done it in 2.5 years as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so allow me to come to our second case, which is a fintech case, because everywhere you listen now is the financial industry and the fintech part of it. So this is a fintech where absolutely it is one of the largest player in Indian capital market, and opportunity was how do we create a digital organization. And if they don't create this organization, the start line, had they not created, and absolutely they had not started a digital journey, somewhere they would have lost absolute opportunity. And they were at that time in the Indian ranking as a market size, they were around 7th. Had they not done it, they would have gone even beyond 20. So this was an opportunity as a do or die for them, that whether do we seize this or we don't do it, or should we do it on this. So absolutely we had to look at it in terms of entire organizational capability design, and primarily look at it the physical company, how does it become a digital company from this. So this is an engagement has been for 4 years. So just to give an answer, as soon as I go back this weekend to India, on Monday I have again a review with the board that now what next, what is another next 3 years journey for this client on this. So again, as I mentioned, we did organizational capability study, and then 250 plus leaders in terms of map whether they are in what junction of digitizational mindset. So I call it digital mindset. All of us keep on saying the mindset, but there is something called digital mindset. And digital mindset versus a normal mindset, the difference is in a digital mindset you always look at it, solution is not only criteria, start line is very important criteria. So if you look at all digital company, they don't look at immediately how part. They look at more on the why part. Why are we doing it? And digital mindset, because normally it is not a foolproof plan and then you start implementing. And there is an entire concept called business model canvas concept, which I learned from Stanford, where we always say that in a digital mindset, you normally focus in terms of I'll start as the idea coming, and I'll fail fast and I'll learn fast. So this is a absolutely very radical concept, and primarily, of course, in United States as well as in some part of the world, we are able to do it. So what we did, again, the same thing in terms of leadership coaching, culture integrations. But here the biggest difference was design thinking concept. Design thinking is, practically we had to do every month a lot of focus group, and every month a lot of kind of recognition of 2 kind of awards every month amongst all the business team. One is best idea of the month, not the best outcome of the month. So best idea of the month, and which team implemented the idea and it failed. So how is we are going to do a celebration of the failure? How are we bringing the celebration of the failure so that ideas are continuously coming in? And some of the revenue actually they could leverage because the kind of idea factory it became. And especially in a digitization, we believe that in a fintech, especially I'm talking about not logistics industry, but in a fintech industry, I think that becomes very, very important and critical. So that's where we kind of look at it, and practically this is something which is a public listed company, so there is nothing, if you look at my logos, you will realize which company it is. So absolutely successful IPO, current market price is 4x to the listing price, to absolutely top 3 in the market share, and especially in the customer acquisition rate per year or per month, they are number 1 player right now. So this is something which impact we have created. So these are some of our clienteles within Southeast Asia, India and GCC. So 160 plus client organizations whom we have been doing a lot of work so far. So we work very closely with the University of Dubai and Dubai Chamber of Commerce. In 2014 to 19, I was a faculty for them. They were kind of leading in terms of the client engagement, and actual work was done by myself. And I was working very closely with Dubai Chamber and University of Dubai at that point in time. So that's our clientele, and myself, Ashish, Dr. Rajashree Vichare is our partner for GCC, and David Cohen, who is our partner for North America from Canada and Ontario. So that's the 3 of us who look at it. Me and Dr. David has done a lot of work for SABIC as well as in Aramco in Saudi KSA also. So we have been happily doing good amount of work. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and we have many case studies which we can share and talk about your specific industry also, and I'll be very happy to engage further. Thank you so much for the opportunity.